Hey everybody, it's Tony D with another hot take. Got a lot of hot takes today. Today's hot take, number two, is about Patton Oswalt. Now look, I like Patton, or I used to. I thought he was a funny guy. He's a nerd guy like me, likes Dungeons and Dragons and all kinds of cool stuff. I felt bad for him when his wife died, and, although, man, he remarried fast, but he's got a kid, so I can understand that, and nobody wants to be alone. But Patton really broke the rule of comedy, and he was punching down. He's punching down on people who are protesting the lockdown, who are out of work and they're going to be poor or are poor. They're certainly poorer than him. He should not be making fun of those people. As a bad move, dummy. That is a dumb move. He's adopting the style that everybody else is. Oh, and this is a lot of Twitterati do this. They're making noise like, well, the people protesting this. Oh, they got to go to TGI Fridays today. It's not about going to TGI Fridays. These people work at TGI Fridays. These people work in those places that you blithely dismiss as wanting to go spend money on. People work there, in case you don't realize that. I just left a job kind of like that, and it didn't pay much, and people, for the most part, were very nice to me, I'll say. But sometimes you get somebody who's haughty and expects you to do a bunch of stuff that you're not even trained to do, or expects you to go out of the way, and they don't tip you or even acknowledge you. That kind of sucks. And I'm sure that Patton probably worked those jobs back in the day, but he's forgotten himself. And he, like a lot of people, they get caught up on Twitter, and he thinks he's so funny. And it's true, the elites are going to laugh at him, and the same people that are, they're so woke and wonderful, and they disdain people in the middle of the country. Yeah, you're going to find a lot of followers on Twitter for that kind of talk. But you're also I've noticed that a lot of these people are very angry. I tried to get into a discussion with one guy who really just, I can't describe it. It's just hostile from the gate. And when you put out these pronouncements on Twitter in a public area, and you're airing out, well, these people are morons who go out and protest. Well, you put that out in the ethosphere or the Twitter sphere, and then you get a response, and then you're annoyed that someone dared question your high and mighty beliefs. Well, if you didn't want to be questioned, don't put it out in Twitter. Don't tweet. You're tweeting that because you're insecure about it. For me, I try not to get into those. So every once in a while, I get sucked in because I see someone say something so stupid. I got to chime in and say, well, that's not really true, or that's really not what liberty or freedom's about. These people just want to work again. And some of these draconian measures that Michigan's putting on, they characterize the measures in New Jersey as draconian. I don't know if they're all that draconian. I know that there are some businesses that are opening. They're making exceptions for them. Not enough, in my view, but there's a little more flexibility here. What I'm seeing coming out of Michigan is more draconian. And I think the governor in Michigan is another one of these rising stars who's trying to show off for the national arena rather than running her damn state. Phil Murphy, he's got a big problem on his hands, and he's handling it, but he's not trying to go on these shows. Yeah, he was on the Tucker Carlson show for a few minutes, and he was not relaxed okay, I got all the time in the world, ask me what you want. He was a guy who was like, okay, I got 5 minutes, let me do a quick interview here and tell you what's going on in New Jersey. Whereas the Michigan governor, she couldn't get enough of the spotlight. You could just tell by her body language, oh, well, I'm so glad to be here. Ask me any question you want. I've got nothing else to do. It felt like different body language coming from Governor Phil. He was more like, yeah, we're doing a lot of stuff here in the state of New Jersey, and I got some time to talk to you, and well, these are concerns, and blah 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 blah. I mean, he handled it much better. Now maybe that's just optics. He looked like a guy who, when he left that interview, he was going to go do something else for the state. The Michigan governor looked like, oh, well, I'm not doing anything. I'm going to go watch Netflix now. Maybe that's just her managing her poor optics. But the one who has the worst optics continues to be Nancy Pelosi. It just going to Chinatown, going on these shows, having nothing better to do than to go on these shows and complain about Trump. Go back to Washington and do your job. Don't take a break. I don't know why anybody in Congress would want to take a break now. I'd be like, no, I'm not taking a break. I don't want a break. Let's stay in session until this crisis is over. Let's stay here until the crisis is over. I mean, that's your job, isn't it? You can always take a break later. You can take a break this summer. Take a big, long break. Reschedule it. Like, what are you doing that's so important? This is your job. Be in Congress. Go legislate things. You have a second home. Yes, I get it. You have families, and maybe you even have a business to run on the side. I don't know. But you got to make arrangements for that. If you're a congressman or a senator, you got to make arrangements for your family to live, and you're getting paid a lot of money. I don't see any problem with that. AOC is the one who complains that she never has enough money for some reason, even though she came out of a bartender's salary going to like over $100,000 a year. I don't know why you can't make that work, AOC. I don't think you need a second place to live if you had some dumpy apartment as a bartender in New York, and you're gonna have to move to New York or move to Washington D.C. to do most of your work. You can always get a hotel back in New York. You seem to spend all the time she at least spends all her time in Washington rather than her district, which I also think is a mistake. And Nancy Pelosi, I mean, it's just ridiculous the amount of little time I think she spends in her district. And she basically spent it to be locked at home with ice cream or go on TV from her home. She could have been on TV anywhere now. You can do a live stream from anywhere, literally. And we have the technology for that, so there's no point in you being in certain places. But these people are millionaires, and they need to go have their fancy millionaire things. So Patton Oswalt is a millionaire too. So it's like, dude, shut your mouth. You're going to be fine. Don't make fun of these people who are protesting. It's going to get ugly. That's going to come back to haunt him. That's going to come back to haunt him. When he goes out on tour and he wants people to go buy tickets for a show, that's not going to be a good look, Patton. I hope you got enough fans in New York and L.A. that you never have to travel to the center of the country again as a stand-up comedian. But, what do I know? I'm only a guy who lives in New Jersey who's not going to see you. So, just these celebrities can't stay off of Twitter is part of the problem. And I get it. I'm there promoting all the time too. And I get it. I get sucked into the stuff as well. But you need to have a little perspective. If you're going to wade into these arguments, at least have, a good sense of what they're about. Don't just read the news. You can't just read the news anymore. I used to write jokes for Politically Incorrect, and they would tell us read the USA Today tidbits of news. And that's how we'd write our jokes. But it wasn't enough. Bill Maher just got blasted on his own show. He had Dan Crenshaw there. And the honest truth, and Tim Pool was talking about this, he just, he had more information than Bill Maher did. And Bill Maher has a staff, and they could do research. But if you're just looking at the mainstream media, that's no good anymore. It's no good. I have to go, into websites to find out information. I have to watch YouTubers. They have information. Now, sometimes they're wrong, or sometimes they're just reading off of New York Times stuff, but at least they're curating it in such a way that I can kind of understand it, or understand, what's good or what's not good. When you have the filter on a national scale, when you have George Stephanopoulos telling you information, I mean, that's filtered through the DNC. He's in the DNC. He's an important figure in the DNC. He goes to all their rallies. So he is very partisan. He doesn't start ABC This Week. Hi, I'm George Stephanopoulos, and I'm a Democratic guy, and I'm in the Democratic Party, and now we're going to show you a bunch of Democrats that we like. Like, he doesn't start the show that way. He pretends to be an objective journalist, and he's not. He's not objective. Like, that's, it'd be fine if he went on ABC and say, hi, I'm George Stephanopoulos, and this is the DNC news. Like, I'd be okay with that, because then I'd go, okay, well, this is the DNC news. And you could take it with a grain of salt, whatever it is. And you could look at it and you could say, well, he's praising Democrats all day long. What does he say about Republicans? And then you could say, well, these are complaints about what the Republicans doing. The Republicans aren't going to tell me. Now, how true are they? And you can go on the internet and find out if they're exaggerating that, or if there's real truth to what they're saying. This idea that George Stephanopoulos, well, I'm just presenting the facts. No, you're not. You're spinning them in a way, and you could see it in everything he says. Same thing with Tucker Carlson. He's going to spin it his way. He grilled Phil Murphy pretty good, but he also gave the guy some time to talk. He wasn't relentless about it. He was giving the guy room to breathe, and he gave him credit where credit was due. You have to do that for people, and I don't get everything right. I certainly don't. I get my opinions from other people and things I read, just like everybody else. But I'm not subsisting on a diet of watching ABC News and CNN or MSNBC or any of those. If you're watching those, you're living in a bubble. You're living in a bubble, and it's not a good bubble. It's a bad bubble, especially now. Back in the 90s, it wasn't too bad. It was different. CNN, they covered news. They had some journalists. They even had investigative journalists on the payroll. Now they don't really do much of that. It's all opinion. And you can do opinions all day long. I'm doing opinion, but they are hiding behind the mantle of journalism, and that's not fair. That they don't deserve that mantle anymore. They've blown it too many times, and you can't trust that. You can't just go into it saying, well, they're telling me, how can it not be true? Simple, because they're lazy and they don't do their research, and and look, a guy like Phil Murphy, even, I would give him credit. I wouldn't expect him to drill down and question the World Health Organization when he heard news from that. He's not a journalist. He's a politician. And if the World Health Organization, when they were saying don't wear a mask, I wouldn't blame him for repeating that, even though I would say, well, really, Mr. Governor, you should really question that. I did. I think you can. I think that's a negative in his favor, that he's not a very independent thinker if he, in fact, repeated that information. But I can understand it. He has to filter through a lot of information. He doesn't have time to stop and go, well, let me see if the World Health Organization is lying to me and secretly run by communists. He didn't have time to do that. The federal government does, and they did, and they knew it, and they were kind of distrusting of what China was saying. They rallied against the head of the World Health Organization when he was being put in that position. And that would have probably been the Obama administration doing that. So you got to ask yourself, these people, they're criticizing Trump relentlessly about cutting the funds to the World Health Organization. Just because it's the World Health Organization, just because it's called that, doesn't mean anything. It's run by the Chinese. No one's been paying attention. And Trump cut off the funding. Thank God. I hope he never re-ups the funding. I hope they investigate it. I hope they expose it. And I hope they close the whole thing down, because it's useless if it's giving you wrong information. And, I hope, because guys like Phil are going to believe it. People like George Stephanopoulos are going to repeat it simply because it aligns with them, their political views. Um, so, uh, sorry, I've been ranting a lot about the beer virus. It's just, I'm so sick of talking about it. I'm so sick of people being stupid about it. So anyhow, wrapping this whole thing up, wrapping these 3 videos up, uh, if you're going to talk about this beer virus, whether you're a celebrity, whether you're just on Twitter, whether you're just sitting at home, do some research. And if you don't want to do your research, I don't blame you. Just, understand that we're going to be locked up for a few more, probably another week or 2 in New Jersey. I have no problem with the people who want to go out and try to work, especially in other states. And really down south here in South Jersey, we should be opening up soon in South Jersey. We should start, slowly tiered approach. Let the southern counties open up, and if some people come from the north and we get more viruses, you can always scale it back. You can always scale back. But there's a lot of people out of work, and we're going to be hurting, and we need to bounce back soon. I am optimistic about the future. I know I sound very pessimistic, but I am optimistic that we can bounce back once we get these businesses going. Yes, there will be a lot of businesses that close, restaurants in particular, some retail stores that were on the bubble anyway. But I think the major stores and retailers, and certainly the guys I worked for, is a pretty big outfit locally, regionally. I think they'll be back. It'll take a few months for them to get back to where they were. And, it may be a year before they're really back into the Trump numbers, but I think they'll be back in, profitability by the end of the summer. Anyhow, stay safe. Keep putting that mask on, and we'll talk to you again.